Hey guys, codename Jitsu here, back with another video. So Rick and Morty is one of my favorite shows of all time. I remember having a lot of fun when I was watching the show for the very first time when I was like 14, almost 15. And yeah, I rewatched the show 3 times and I still had a lot of fun. So let's talk about the episode that started the whole franchise. And that is the pilot episode. It's really a great episode and it's my second favorite pilot episode. Like, it's so good. The story of the episode is Rick affecting Morty's life in a negative way by going with him on crazy adventures. And they set up a lot of stuff in this episode that we will get to see in the rest of the show. They set up the dynamic between Rick and Morty. They set up Beth and Jerry arguing about Rick, which we get to see more of in the rest of the show. You have Summer, and she didn't do much in this episode, but they established her as this girl that doesn't care and is always bored of her family. They set the whole Morty being in love with Jessica, so yeah. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Rick Sanchez. In the pilot, Rick is very much a different character. He's very different from what we see of him in the rest of the show. And I'm not saying like he went through developments, so that's why he changed after the pilot. No, that's not the case. Rick was a completely different character in the pilot, because after the pilot, the crew behind the show reworked Rick's character. And here's an example on why Rick from the pilot is a completely different character from what we see of him in the rest of the show. Like, we are all used to Rick being this scientist that always gets what he wants, he doesn't care about anyone, he always has a backup plan, he's like a robot man, he doesn't show his emotions to Morty, like he just drags him along to go with him on adventures but never being supportive of him. Rick from the pilot is the complete opposite. Yes, he is smart in the pilot, but he's also very drunk. They very much treated him like this drunk, crazy grandpa that always gets Morty into trouble. And whenever they get attacked by monsters, he tells Morty to run. He doesn't use his gadgets to stop the monster, but instead he just runs, screaming out of fear. He also shows a lot of his emotions to Morty, like he's very supportive of Morty, unlike the rest of the show where he just doesn't show his emotions to Morty. Because in the pilot, when Morty is scared, Rick talks to him, telling him to not be afraid and that he has to confront his fears and be brave, and he begs Morty so he can help him, such as when he told him what he should do with the mega seats. And there is a scene where Rick tells Morty the student becomes the teacher. Like, man, Pilot Rick is nothing like Rick from the rest of the show. Like, they really had to rework his character after the pilot. And you know what? I just like Pilot Rick. Like, it's cool to look back at Rick from the pilot and be like, damn, Rick was a complete different character in the pilot. So we actually liked that he was written differently in the pilot. It's just cool to look back at it. So yeah, I just like that. Like, you can see how the show evolved, like in how it used to be and how it evolved after the pilot. So I really like that. I really like the dynamic between Rick and Morty. They are actually one of my favorites duo of all time. Like, we are always used to see duos be like the same age, like Mordecai and Rigby, Gumball and Darwin, SpongeBob and Patrick. But here we have a 70-year-old man who goes on adventures with a 14-year-old kid. It was something fresh, like we get to see a duo that are not the same age, but they still adventure together. Like what Beth said to Jerry, Morty has a friend. The humor in the pilot is just great, like the jokes are hilarious, such as when Rick tells Morty to not be afraid, and he has to face his fears, but then a creature shows up and Rick tells Morty to run, and you hear Rick screaming out of fear. You also have a scene where Morty forgets to turn on his shoes, so he gets his legs broken, or when Rick tells Morty to shoot the Galactic Federation because they are robots, and then he shoots someone and you hear him scream out of pain. Like, that's just comedy gold. I love that Morty is very scared in the pilot since he is new to this kind of stuff, but then he does get used to it in later seasons. And man, I really love the season 1 art style. Like, the colors are very bright in season 1, but then they tweaked the art style a little bit once we get to season 2. So yeah, and we had the iconic Rick and Morty 100 years, so yeah. So much to love about the pilot. I just love a lot of things about it. Rick was written very differently in the pilot from the rest of the show. The dynamic between Rick and Morty is great. The art style, the comedy, Morty being very scared at the start of the show compared to the later seasons. So yeah, the pilot is a great start to Rick and Morty. Like, I can't ask for a different pilot. The one that we got was great. So yeah, like, it's just cool to look back at it and be like, man, the show really evolved after the pilot. So yeah, I love the pilot. So what do you guys think of the pilot? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Just leave your thoughts down in the comments. I will definitely cover more Rick and Morty in the future. So yeah, so if you guys like this video, then give it a like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll catch you all in the next video.